Welcome back. The city of Cape Town is warning residents not to pay for a housing scam run by the so-called shack farming syndicates. The city says there have been a number of cases reported across the metro in recent days. Joining us now is Zama Mgwatyu, who is a program manager at the Development Action Group. Zama, thank you for making time for us. Are you aware of these scams and who is running them?
Thank you, and thank you to the listeners back home. I think there are some scams that are going around, taking advantage of the good work that is being done by different spheres of government. But at DEG, we always say, how do we start to strengthen the capacity building processes so that people can better understand and better know to say, oh, okay, when it comes to the different housing programs, this is how I can get in contact with different spheres of government. This is where I get the right information, because the syndicates are taking advantage of the poor because the information is not going on the ground to different communities. For example, I think we have indabas that are being organized by government in most cases, but at DEG we are saying, how do we start to create and have dialogues on the ground so that people can better understand government programs, but also better understand how the support that is coming from their way, they can access that. And we are saying as those dialogues should not be situations whereby the agenda is preset by government officials or by parliament. But we are saying this time around, officials, senior officials who are policymakers, and government and politicians should be going on the ground, attend those dialogues, attend those round tables, so that they can better understand what other communities on the ground are saying. Because just to qualify that, I've been saying in these different platforms, since 1994, as policymakers, as government, as NGOs, as academics, we created boxes. One box is around RDP House, another box is around social housing institutions, programs, another box is around CRUs. But the realities of 2022 are telling us that we need to go back to the policy table, because the challenges that we are facing in 2022 are not talking to those boxes.
Yeah, and one of those challenges, Zama, I'm thinking here is the lack of just urban houses, right? That's another big issue for many South Africans who are far from economic opportunities. Do you get a sense that this is being adequately addressed by government?
Unfortunately, if you look at the policy shift, I think back in 2004, everyone else in the sector was excited because the BNG policy was put into place and it was piloted in Langa, Joe Slovo. But the realities of today are, we are continuing to build houses. Go to Delft, government is just building houses. Go to Eastern Rivier and any other metros, government is just delivering houses. And I always say, people are not eating houses. How do we make sure that when we are implementing or thinking about any human settlement project, we bring other directorates on board? For example, education. For example, what about economic opportunities? Why do we continue in 2022 to build houses in Eastern Rivier where there's no transport opportunity, there's no transportation for those people, there's no economic opportunities, there's no, city centers. You go to Delft now, is one of the crime spots in South Africa. But 10 years ago, it was not. So how do we start to really look at the policies that we created as a country, breaking new ground? Breaking new ground talks about sustainable human settlements. It does not talk about the house. Take someone who is not working, who's 40 years of age, who was maybe staying in Langa, in Cape Town, which is closer to work opportunities. You take that person to Delft, you take that person to Eastern Rivier. What is that person going to eat? So how do we start as governments to really look at how do we better implement the policies that we approved in Parliament?
Yeah, I mean, it's also an additional cost if people are being moved from where they were closer to those economic opportunities. Because there's also an issue of affordability here. Many people can't find decent or affordable places in the cities where they've migrated to. So they end up being relegated to the slums, to informal settlements as well. And that comes with its own challenges, doesn't it? Things like lack of services.
Unfortunately, I think for the past 22 years, we have been punting to say we push for social housing in the inner city, then for the rest is RDP houses.
Yeah.
But not everyone will ever qualify for an RDP type of a house. One of the qualifying criteria is for one to have to earn 3.5 combined income. And in most cases now, the living wage has increased, and our policies have not taken that into consideration. Then you take a program like social housing. One of the criteria there, it says if you have got a criminal record, even if you are just leading a toy and then you get a criminal record, you will never qualify for a social housing opportunity. Then the question comes, we use this term affordability. The question is, it's affordable to who? Because social housing in most instances is not affordable to the poor. And then, of course, we know that the poor will not qualify for bank-financed or housing options, even though we've got the finance-linked individual subsidy program. But if you don't qualify for the bonds, for a bond from the banks, then that box of fleece will never be ticked. So, hence I'm saying, as a country, how do we really look at what are the people on the ground are calling for? And craft, opportunities that talks to those needs on the ground.
Yeah, and I mean, you end up having people that are so desperate and they set up homes anywhere. And I imagine there are risks associated with that, right? Where desperate people just set up home anywhere. And some of the land that they occupy is not even suitable for development. But also, that's the last of someone's worry when they are without housing and all they need on that day is a roof above their head.
Yes, I think I was saying that I was in a site visit, I think in Kailicha yesterday, and I was saying, unfortunately, when people occupy, they don't look at what is this piece of land zoned for. They don't look at the ownership. For example, look at COVID-19 in Mfuleni. It's an occupation that is in a place that is a wetland. But unfortunately, due to the pressures that were there from those individuals, look, I think a lot of invasions happened, I think, during the first year of COVID-19, when most people lost jobs. And if you look at who invaded in some of these occupations, it's people who are staying in traditional backyards, paying around 500, 600, 800 rands, depending on the area. And once those individuals lost their jobs, then the landlords pushed them out, and the only option for them was to occupy. Unfortunately, I always say, people don't occupy because they like to occupy. They occupy because they are desperate. But unfortunately, during each and every occupation, there will be those people who are taking chances. That means someone who sees an opportunity and invade for the sake of reselling that piece of land. That is what we call shack farmers. Someone who will invade in a piece of land in Kailicha CBD. Within 6 months, he rents that place out because he has got another place to stay. Hence, I'm saying, when it comes to sustainable human settlements, how do we really look at issues of economic opportunities? Because people are not going to eat houses.
No, that's true. And we haven't even touched on the issue of criminalizing landless and homeless people's efforts to also house themselves. Zama Mgwatyu, Program Manager at the Development Action Group, thank you for making time.